morning. We are continuing with chapter B, reading from the book of Exodus. We have some key terms that go along with this chapter. First one is slavery. Slavery is the state of a person who is the property of and wholly subject to another person. So we learned about slavery in with the Civil War that we read about in social studies. We've learned how the Jewish people were slaves in Egypt. Ancestor is the person from whom one is descended. So we learned a lot about ancestors in social studies with the ancestors of the Dakota we just talked about in social studies today. Ancestors are the people who came before us, our family members from a long ago. Passover. We read yesterday about the Passover, how it's the event that led to the release of the Jewish people from captivity in Egypt. Because of Passover, when the angel of death passed over the Israelites off of their houses, the Jewish people's houses, the Egyptians said, "You need to go, 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 go." So, the Passover is a big event that we need to remember is what led to the release of the Jewish people from their captivity. They were no longer going to be slaves. And the Egyptians, the Pharaoh said, "Go," because of the Passover. Deca, remember, Deca is that Latin word for what number? 10. Deca means 10. If it's a decagon, how many sides is it going to have? 10. So deca is important. It means 10. Log literally means words. So decalog means 10 words. And we're thinking about it with the Bible. It's the 10 commandments. Okay, so the 10 decalog is the 10 words, which is another name for the 10 commandments given to Moses by God. So when we started our chapter, we started reading about Moses. We read about Moses hearing God speaking through that burning bush. God was telling him, "You need to go to Pharaoh, and I've heard my people's cries. I know what's happening to them in slavery, and I want them to be freed, and you need to go and free them." And does Moses say, "Yes, I will go"? No, he complains, he makes excuses. But how are they going to believe me? How do they know that you sent me? I don't even know your name. I'm not a good speaker. And for every excuse that Moses came up with, God gave him an answer. My name is what? What is God's name?
Am I?
Very close.
I
am. So God says, "My name is I am." Shh. And then when Moses said, "Well, how are they going to know that you really sent me? They're not going to believe me." What signs did God give?
He gave him like a staff or a stick, and then like whenever he threw it on the ground, it would turn into a snake. Whenever he picked it up by his tail, it would turn back into a staff.
Yeah, he had his staff, his cane, his walking stick. If he threw it to the ground, it would turn into a snake. When he picked it up by its tail, it would turn back into a stick. Doesn't happen with any walking sticks that I have. What other signs did he give? Zoe? Exactly. When he would put his hands into his cloak, like putting it into a pocket, put his hands into his cloak, and he pulled it out, it would be full of scales. And then when he put his hand back in, Nolan, stop talking, and pulled it out, then it would be back to regular skin. One more sign that he gave to Moses. Remembers the third one.
Where he put his hand in the water and like it turned to blood or something like that?
Close. It does have to do with water and blood. He doesn't put his hand into it. Nobody wants to put their hand into a bucket of blood. Ew. What does he do with the water? If he pours the water on the
ground, it turns into there.
Yeah, so if he pours the water onto the ground, it's going to turn into blood. Doesn't happen when I spill water, thank goodness. But these were signs that miracles were happening because of God. His excuse that, I'm not a good speaker. I stumble on my words. I don't know what to say. God says, here are the words that you're going to say. I'm giving you the words to say right here. But I can't speak well. I'm not eloquent. Don't send me. What does God say? What happened, Scarlett? Oh, you're still going to go. You're not getting out of it, but your brother Aaron is going to help you. He's an eloquent speaker. You're not getting out of it, Moses. So you're my chosen one to go do this. So no matter what excuse Moses came up with, God gave him an answer. Then we read about the angel of death passing over, the Passover. They had slaughtered the lamb, put the blood on their posts, have the unleavened bread ready to travel, because when the Egyptians woke up and the firstborn was dead in every household, that was pretty traumatic. And they're all saying, oh my goodness, just go, get out of Egypt. And the Pharaoh said, please go, you're free. And so they were able to escape. Today we are reading Exodus chapter 14, the Red Sea part. So yes, we're doing the Red Sea today. So let's open up Exodus to chapter 14. The Lord spoke to Moses, speak to the Israelites, let them turn about and camp before Pi-hahiroth, between Migdal and the sea. Camp in front of Baal Zephon, just opposite by the sea. Pharaoh will then say, the Israelites are wandering about aimlessly in the land. The wilderness has closed in on them. I will so harden Pharaoh's heart that he will pursue them. Thus I will receive glory through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. This the Israelites did. When it was reported that to the king of Egypt that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his servants had a change of heart about the people. What in the world have we done? They said. We have released Israel from our service. Oh my goodness, we've just lost all of our slaves. We don't want that to happen. Whew. We were so upset about the death of our firstborns that we let all of our slaves go. Now who's going to do the work? We need to get them back. So Pharaoh harnessed his chariots and took his army with him. He took 600 select chariots and all the chariots of Egypt, with officers on all of them. The Lord hardened the hearts of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, so that he pursued the Israelites while they were going out in triumph. The Egyptians pursued them, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, his horsemen, and his army, and caught up with them as they encamped by the sea at Pi-hahiroth in front of Baal Zephon, crossing the Red Sea. Now Pharaoh was near when the Israelites looked up and saw that the Egyptians had set out after them. Greatly frightened, the Israelites cried out to the Lord. To Moses they said, were there no burial places in Egypt that you brought us to die in the wilderness? My goodness, what have you done? You've brought us out of Egypt and now we're going to die. What was this? What was the point? Did we not tell you this in Egypt when we said, leave us alone that we may serve the Egyptians? Far better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. But Moses answered the people, do not fear. Stand your ground and see the victory the Lord will win for you today. For these Egyptians whom you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you only have to keep still. You don't have to do anything. God's going to fight for you. Then the Lord said to Moses, why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to set out. And you, lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and split it in two, that the Israelites may pass through the sea on dry land. But I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them. And I will receive glory through Pharaoh and all his army, his chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I receive glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. What's going to happen? Who knows the story? He said, "Oh, you Israelites will walk through on dry land." What's going to happen to the Egyptians, Gregory?
She's gonna go back in on the.
They're going to drown. Yeah. The sea will fall back in on them. The angel of God, who had been leading Israel's army, now moved and went around behind them. And the column of cloud moving from in front of them took up its place behind them, so that it came between the Egyptian army and of Israel. And when it became dark, the cloud illumined the night, and so the rival camps did not come any closer together all night long. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord drove back the sea with a strong east wind all night long and turned the sea into dry ground. The waters were split, so that the Israelites entered into the midst of the sea on dry land, with the water as a wall to their right and to their left. The Egyptians followed in pursuit after them, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen, into the midst of the sea. But during the watch, just before dawn, the Lord looked down from a column of fiery cloud upon the Egyptian army and threw it into a panic. And so he clogged their chariot wheels, that they could drive only with difficulty. With that, the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from Israel, because the Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." Then the Lord spoke to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, and that the water may flow back upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots and their horsemen." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea returned to its normal flow. The Egyptians were fleeing head on toward it when the Lord cast the Egyptians into the midst of the sea. As the water flowed back, it covered the chariots and the horsemen. Of all Pharaoh's army, which had followed the Israelites into the sea, not even one escaped. But the Israelites had walked on dry land through the midst of the sea, with the water as a wall to their right and to their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel on that day from the power of Egypt. When Israel saw the Egyptians lying dead on the seashore, and saw the great power that the Lord had shown against Egypt, the people feared the Lord. They believed in the Lord and in Moses, his servant. So God needed this to happen so that the people of Israel could see how great he was and have faith in him. With that, we're going to put the elements in order. So Moses held out his hand over the sea, and the Lord drove the sea back. The Egyptian army pursued the Israelites and caught up with them by the Red Sea. The Egyptians tried to escape from the water, but the Lord threw them into the sea. People said to Moses, "It would be better to be slaves than to die here in the desert." And the king of Egypt was told that the Israelites escaped, and he readied his war chariot. So make sure you get the number 1 correct. You make one mistake in your order, it's going to mess up the rest of the order.
I did it before we started because I knew the story and how it worked. So, this is easy.
I'll make sure that you did it correctly. And with that, we're going to say goodbye to our friends at home. We hope you are well and that we see you soon.